Good evening. Welcome to this edition of the 401 Talk Zone Radio Show. My name is Leon Jones. Today is Tuesday, October 11th, 2016. Tune in to the 401 Talk Zone Radio Show every Saturday from 12 noon to 2 p.m. Guest call-in number is 215-383-5785. If you like my videos, please share and subscribe to the 401 Talk Zone Radio Show right here on YouTube so I can continue to give you quality information for educational purposes from a professional and mature perspective. So on this channel, we do not engage in emotional, controversial topics, nor do we participate in any drama or unnecessary bickering. So please be respectful and positive. Also, if you have a business or a topic that you'd like for me to discuss right here on the 401 Talk Zone Radio Show, YouTube, and or Blog Talk Radio, please email me at lej6521@gmail.com. Please feel free to comment. Now make sure that your comments are pithy, no bloviating, if you wish to opine. Now on to this evening's topic. The name of this video is Classic Liberalism versus Progressive Liberalism. Now, since its emergence in the late 1800s, classical liberalism has principally advocated that every individual has natural rights to life, liberty, and prosperity, and that the function of government is to protect these rights. And as the belief in Lockean natural rights, classic liberals have strong proponent beliefs of individual liberty in the political, social, and economic spheres. In the economic realm, classical liberals advocate the free market economy because, as noted by the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, unless people are free to make contracts and to sell their labor, or unless they are free to save their incomes and then invest them as they see fit, or unless they are free to run enterprises when they have obtained capital, they are not really free. In the political and social realms, classical liberals have been the greatest advocates of freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of religion, and so on. Now, in contrast, progressive liberalism principally advocates egalitarianism and social justice. Progressive liberals believe themselves to be defenders of minorities and the downtrodden. They seek to eliminate society of political, social, and economic inequalities. Seemingly, this is a distinction without a difference, as one can advocate both liberty and equality simultaneously. However, there is a substantial difference between classical and progressive liberals, and when it comes down to what they believe their role of government is. Now, by definition, the state is effectively a legal monopoly on the use of force. No private individual, business, or organization can compel anyone to do something against their will, but the state can. Now, classical liberals consequently see the state as is, at best, a necessary evil whose coercive powers should be utilized as infrequently as possible. Now, in stark contrast, progressive liberals believe in utilizing the state frequently and extensively by a means of force to change within coordinates of egalitarian principles. Now, the differences between classical and progressive liberals can be illustrated through how they believe the government should respond to a number of socioeconomic issues. Consider income inequality. A classic liberal who wishes for a more equitable income distribution would encourage the wealthy to donate their money to those in need. On the other hand, a progressive will utilize the state to forcibly confiscate via confiscatory taxation money away from the wealthy individuals who earned it and then redistribute it to the poor while congratulating themselves on their selflessness and castigating the person who stole from the greedy if they raised any objections. Now, also consider social welfare schemes like Social Security, a program devised by progressives, which all workers are forced by the government to pay a considerable percentage of their income to in order to ensure all said workers are able to retire when they are older. Progressives love this system as much as they are adamantly opposed to the classical liberal proposition allowing workers to opt out of it so they can manage their own money as they see fit. Now, when Christian bakers in Oregon refused to make a wedding cake for a gay couple because it violated their religious beliefs, they were sued and forced to pay $135,000 in compensation to the couple for discrimination. Classical liberals lamented this outcome as they don't believe that people should be forced by law to associate with each other's against their own will. Now, there are rare exceptions, but if you're a progressive liberal, on the other hand, they celebrate it. Now, in their minds, forcing people to act in accordance with their social justice ideology is perfectly fine, and not doing so actually constitutes a crime. Lastly, consider freedom of speech. While classical liberals denounce racists but nonetheless support their own rights to speak, progressives have become increasingly supportive of using the government to censor opinions they disapprove of. Now, the majority of Democrats, for example, now support law which would make hate speech a punishable crime, and 35% of them think that statements which are offensive to minorities should be censored by the government, compared to what 18% of the Republicans think. Now, in every case, progressive liberals are more likely to support using the coercive power of the state to force society to be structured according to their will, and yet somehow they see themselves as good just for doing this. Most classical liberals, however, personally hold on to all the values that progressives do. They believe that racism and sexism are terrible and wish them to be banished from society. They wish for end-to-end inequality and so on. But they do not believe that just because they personally think that a rich man or woman should give their money to the poor, he or she must be compelled to do so under the penalty of lawful retribution. Nor do they believe that Christian bakers should have been forced to serve gay couples against their will. Nor they believe racists should have their free speech, even though what they say is toxic. In other words, they do believe free speech, whether you're racist or whether you're not. Now, classical liberals believe that society should avoid using coercive institutions like the state in order to change itself for the better. Instead, open debate, social pressures, and other voluntary means should be used to promote societal progress. A free society should utilize coercion as little as possible. Classical liberals believe that it's just morally the position that should be taken by anyone who sees any type of issue from a progressive light. Now, let me make out what's being said. The classical liberals believe in liberty, whereas the progressive liberals believe in tyranny. What you have now is not classical liberalism. You have progressive liberalism, that they want the government to censor everything. Again, since their speech is the right speech. This is the problem that you have with politics right now. Progressive liberals want an egalitarian society, redistributive of wealth, high taxes, so we can take care of the poor. Now, do we believe that the poor should be taken care of? Absolutely. Here's how you do it. Utilize private donations like the United Way or the Red Cross. Government should not be in anybody's lives to force them to pay for items against a person's will. That's on a line of communism or socialism. Right now in the United States, we have a slight move toward socialism and communism. And this is from the radical left from the 60s, and this has been brewing over the past 50 years to where we're going from what we call liberty to tyranny. Now, everybody needs to check out Mark Levin's book on tyranny, Michael Savage's book. Check those books out. And also, if you want more information about tyranny, liberalism, check out Aaron Clary's videos. That's right, his name is Aaron Clary. But on the role of liberalism, and I wanted to make the contrast because we use that term liberalism like an open container. There are two types of liberalism. And what I did, I just broke down the differences. So let me break it down one more time. Classical liberalism believes in freedom. Progressive liberalism, what you see today, believes in tyranny. Now, both commonalities is to abolish racism and sexism. But on one hand, the classical liberals believe in keeping all of their money, whereas the progressive liberals believe in redistribution of wealth. In other words, we're going to talk about the welfare state. A welfare state keeps everyone poor and dependent, and that's what you have now. The reason why I'm bringing this up, because we have an election coming up, and we have a third debate coming up. Now, I want to ask my audience, do you believe in freedom or do you believe in tyranny? Leave that in the comment section. I believe that the liberal or the radical left is trying to take over everything that we do, and it makes no sense. This is why they want the government to use their coercion. Government should be in the role of protecting us, not intruding in every aspect of our lives. So, when you go to the polls, are you going to vote for classical liberalism? Or are you going to vote for progressive liberalism? At the end of the day, you get the government based on what you voted for. And that's my commentary for this evening's edition of the 401 Talk Zone Radio Show. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. Remember to be gentle and respectful to each other, and have a wonderful and blessed evening. Good night.